what? TV party tonight! Oh!
We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know!
We're dedicated, yes!
To our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hippo Toes!
Scary dog!
Pearson at Blurnsville!
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premier podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Hawkeye. Nice shooting, Hawkeye. Brought to you by the good people at Marvel Studios and Disney Plus. This is a limited series part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe of movies and now television shows, where Jeremy Renner of the Hawkeye character reprises his role, and he is joined by Hailee Steinfeld playing the role of Kate Bishop. Also, Tony Dalton, Fra Fee, Brian Darcy James, Aleks Paunovic, a lot of Polish names, Linda Cardellini reprising her role as his wife, Simon Callow, Vera Farmiga, Alaqua Cox as Echo, and Florence Pugh reprising her role as Yelena Belova, the second Black Widow, and coming back from the Netflix Marvel world, Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin of Crime. Joining me tonight first is my other brother from another mother, a good friend of the podcast, always very much on time. He is punctual and perky. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dungeon Master from the Screaming Boy podcast, Ronnie Adams.
Hey, you, Mark. How are you, Mark?
I'm good. I just referred to you as perky and punctual. You need to be perkier.
That's why I'm doing this.
Okay. Thank you, Captain Passive Aggressive. And also joining us for the second night in a row, from the Resurrections, Warlock, and Thanos podcast, Mr. Al Sedano. How do you do, sir?
I'm good. I'm a little confused, though. I mean, I just watched like 11 seasons of MASH, and I'm not sure where they got this from. So this is a weird take on Hawkeye that I was a little confused by.
Oh, boy. Here we go already. Good to have you back on the show, Al.
30 seconds in, you already got Pinkie Pod.
Goddamn right. So the thing about this show, and what was this the thing I was most excited for of all the like Phase 4 stuff that they announced 15 years ago? Not particularly, but the thing that did intrigue me, and we found this was a fact over time. They didn't necessarily say it right off the bat. It was somewhat assumed that this was going to be inspired by Matt Fraction's run on Hawkeye, which I have read the first 2 volumes of that. So let's just talk about that for a moment. I'll go to you first, Ronnie. I know you especially wanted to talk about the Hawkeye show. So is it the character in and of itself and its rich history? Was it Matt Fraction's run? Why were you so big on doing the Hawkeye show?
I've always liked Hawkeye for one reason or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because, he's never had any powers.
Mm-hmm.
To speak of, you know, I mean, like I think he used pin particles at one point, things like that. But he was Giant Man for a while, wasn't he?
Goliath, but same
Goliath,
thing.
yeah.
He had that weird costume with like it looked like just the shoulder thing and then no shirt.
No shirt, yeah.
It was like weird. A dickie with no shirt. Very
right. Weird. But I've always liked him just because of that, and he was a smart aleck too. The villain turned good, but I absolutely adore Matt Fraction's run with Hawkeye because it really focused on him being a normal guy.
Yeah,
him buying a building and basically ended up, without meaning to, being a slumlord, but trying not to be one, trying to fix things and do right. And then he runs into the tracksuit mafia. It just goes on from there. I love it. He doesn't rely on Tony Stark or I mean, like legitimately, he's like, no, leave it alone. I'll do it. Because he's in the book, he's trying to fix his TiVo and his sound system for his TV, and it's all just wires everywhere. And he's like I'll do it. Like Tony Stark's like, I'll buy you a new one. He's like, no, I don't want a new one.
Right.
Like whatever show, I forget what show, it's like Cop Dog or something like that is on there, and I've got the entire season on it, and I want to watch it. And so it was like I thought it was brilliant. So that's why I want to talk so much about it, because it's very much based on Matt Fraction's run, and there's a lot of throwbacks to that.
What about you, Al? Were you did you read the Al Fraction run? Did you have a particular love of the character?
Al Fraction.
I wish.
Did I say Al Fraction?
Yeah. So what about you, Al? Did you read the Al Fraction run?
Sorry.
Yeah, I had to. It was kind of required. No, yeah, I did read that. I was buying that as it came out. I love that run, and I do like the character of Hawkeye. I mean, going back when I first started reading Marvel stuff, one of the early books I was reading was Avengers West Coast, when he was the leader.
Yep, me too.
And one of my favorites after that was Thunderbolts, and he became a big part of that within a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was always fun, the smart, like you said, the smart aleck, but he also, with no powers, but yet he takes charge. He's like, nope, but I'm still going to be in charge and do what I need to do, which kind of fits in with the whole, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah, I think he's one of the only Avengers, or one of the only heroes in the Marvel universe that has like really put Captain America on the carpet by just verbally. I just know, shut up, Cap, I'm going to do it this way. And he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, he led the West Coast Avengers there for a bit. That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying, Al. Like, you know, just like you, my exposure to Hawkeye came from reading West Coast Avengers, and how big of a character he was there, where he was basically the Captain America of that group.
Yeah.
I read Matt Fraction's Hawkeye as a trade. I don't remember how many volumes there are all together, but I read the first two. And the thing I love about Matt Fraction's Hawkeye is what a meditation it is on self-worth. You know, I don't know how much of Matt Fraction's Hawkeye is canonical to all the stuff that happened over the decades with Hawkeye, you know, with Mockingbird, and, you know, I don't know how much of that's been retconned or written out.
Pretty straightforward, I think.
At least at the time it was.
Yeah.
But a lot of Matt Fraction's run is him reflecting on him feeling like, I guess after everything that's happened over the years, that he's not a good person.
Yeah.
And that brings in Kate Bishop, who I don't know if she was introduced in the Fraction run or not.
Young Avengers.
Young Avengers,
okay.
Yeah. She's been around for a little bit at this point.
But, you know, through her, he is able to see the value in himself, because, you know, she's there to remind him that you are not just an Avenger, but you're a genuinely good dude, and you are worth, you know, the relationships that you have. And that's a big part of the book, and that's a big part of this series too. And I kind of want to start there, because I think Hailee Steinfeld did I'm pronouncing her name right.
Steinfeld. Stein, like beer Steinfeld, I think is how it's said.
Hailee Hassenpfeffer. She I feel like in the comic book, she had only so much patience for Clint. You know, like she did not hold him up with necessarily reverence. She didn't idolize him, and maybe I'm wrong about that. That's kind of why I'm glad you guys are here. You might have read more about her. But I feel like in the comic, she was very self-assured. She was very capable, but she did look up to Clint somewhat as a role model, but more of her having to just remind him that he's not a bad person, that he shouldn't be so down on himself. Whereas in the show, Al, she is very much portrayed as like a Hawkeye super fan. And I think for Jeremy Renner's part, the way that he's written, there is a lot of reflection vis-a-vis his relationship with Black Widow about his own, you know, and what he did as Ronin, his self-worth. So there are some parallels to the comic, but not a lot. And then again, with relationship to her, there is a greater mentorship role and more of like him just wanting to keep her out of danger, and not quite the relationship he has with Kate Bishop in the comics. What do you think? Yeah,
no, I agree with that a bit. I mean, because when she started becoming Hawkeye and Young Avengers, he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she admired him a bit. She was it's not like she thought he was a loser, but she was not the Hawkeye fan that the TV version is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, you know, she took up his mantle, and she was, because that's something she could do. I guess I forget, it's been so long since I read Young Avengers, but I assume she had some ability with archery. It's why she took it up. and she was interested in learning from him.
Mhm.
But she was not the big fan of his that the TV version was, because it's different continuities, different things happen. A lot less superheroes there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still more coming up, but I mean, no, by the time she was there was like 5 billion of them in the Marvel comics. He was just one of 1,000. It just was the one that she could do. But yeah, she was. I mean, she's definitely is more of a Hawkeye stan, I guess you would call it, in the movie. But it makes sense. I mean, at the time, he's only like one of 5
Right.
people know about, and he saves her. So of course she's gonna be.
Yeah, no, they wrote it perfectly fine and believable. It's just it was a different interpretation, is what I wanted to point at, than the comic.
Yeah.
Book. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Well, the Hawkeye character in the MCU is a very much a different character than it is in the comic books in certain ways. In the MCU, he's still snarky, he's still sarcastic and funny and everything, but he's very much an adult.
He's also not quite as meta in the comic book.
Right.
He's very, like, if you look at him, the kind of stuff he says in Age of Ultron, like, there is a tacit recognition by the writers of those movies that this is a guy that does not belong on a giant superhero team involving gods and a monster and a guy in a mech suit.
Oh,
But
you mean
there
like
he is.
the scene with Wanda?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was like, this makes no sense,
Yeah.
but I'm going out there anyway.
Right.
Right.
It's like the comic book writers never addressed it. They were perfectly fine with, with all of the Avengers and the guy with the bow and arrow, and that makes perfect sense. And then it was like the Hollywood writers got a hold of it and was like, no, it really doesn't, though, and we need to address this in some way. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Well, I was saying he's more of an adult in the MCU because of I mean, he's married, he's got kids. You find that out in Ultron, but in the comic books, he gets around. Like, I mean, I mean, in the Fraction run, he runs into 3 of his ex-girlfriends, and that is, I mean, you've got Black Widow is one of them.
Yep.
With Mockingbird, which is his ex-wife, and then I think it was, it was Wanda. He had a fling with Wanda and Wasp. I mean, that dude got around the Avengers. Spider-Woman, yes, Jessica Drew. He got around.
Moonstone and Thunderbolts.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're right. But so he's got all these women, and I think that's why in the comic book she had less patience for him. As it was just kind of like it wasn't that he was a joke. It was just like he was kind of that guy.
He was a cad. He was kind of a
he's the Han Solo of the Avengers. He's like before he met Leia. So and she was physically attracted to him, as you can see in some of the which kind of weirded me out, a little bit because she's a little young. But like it was one of those things where like she was balancing on that thing of like, okay, he's my mentor and he's kind of a dick. But all this other stuff. So it was weird. It was weird. It was cool. It was handled very well by Fraction. And this one, she met him as a little girl. Met him. He saved her. And then from then on, it was just like he's got his crap together. He knows what he's doing. Plus, he's punching with the big guys. He's punching with the guys with power. So that two different runs on the character, two different, but very much the same character.
Yeah, it is also a bit of a mix of the Hawkeye and Hawkeye Ultimate version of Hawkeye. So it was a bit more
very much so.
That.
Can you flesh that out for people who have not read the ultimate version of Hawkeye?
Do you mean just what the ultimate version of Hawkeye is, or
like,
the
50 words or less on what do you mean, like characterization wise? What do you mean by the ultimate version of Hawkeye?
Ultimate version of Hawkeye was basically more what they kind of put what Hawkeye was in the movies on paper. He was an assassin that worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. He just happened to use arrows. And so they put him on that team they were forming because they wanted, Fury wanted people he trusted and were willing to kill. So he's a bit more bloodthirsty, a bit more willing to kill, a bit more of a spy assassin type character.
Okay.
But he was also married there too with kids. Although, of course, they killed him off.
And for those who might not know, Ultimates was a different universe, different, a different run, basically them starting fresh.
This is now the second time. I'm sorry, Ronnie. This is now the second time. And I cut you off because it just pinged my memory about this, because I think when I asked Ben Cologne what version of Tom Holland Spider-Man is he went the Ultimate Spider-Man. This is now the second time. And now I'm starting to think, and it's proving true that a lot of the MCU seems to draw inspiration, not from the canonical Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stuff, Eternals excluded, but from the Ultimates run.
Or a little bit of both. They do mix them. Like this Hawkeye, I think, is a mix of both of them. And basically,
Definitely
sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just saying, definitely a mix. I was agreeing with you because your Captain America is definitely a mix of your classic Captain, and your Ultimate Cap. Because
Ultimate Cap was a dick.
Ultimate Cap was a jerk, man. He was like very much a jerk, but he still had his super soldier serum. He was still really strong, lifting motorcycles up, could throw people through walls and all that, just like your MCU Captain America, who with one punch busted open a punching bag, kind of like that. Whereas Captain America, top Olympic athlete, Olympic level athlete and all that, but he's not the super strong super soldier serum guy. So, I mean, I think in the Ultimates, Captain America knocked out Hank Pym in his Giants form with one punch. Just jumped up, whop, just knocked him out. So, fresh run on the Ultimates. They're trying to get a more adult feel to it because they even, Wanda and Peter, Wanda and Pietro had like an incestuous relationship and all this other crap in it.
Yeah, it got
some really
weird.
It got weird,
The best thing about the Ultimate stuff was when they did that and reintroduced the characters, they did Nick Fury and they drew him to look like Samuel L. Jackson.
Absolutely.
And that is one of the reasons why Samuel L. Jackson, basically from what I read, saw that and was like, if you make a movie, I want to be Nick Fury.
Yeah.
That's why he's Nick Fury.
Yeah.
So is there a Kate Bishop in the Ultimates universe that has a relationship with this Hawkeye? No.
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
So getting strictly back to the show.
Yes.
The thing about this show and their relationship, as we've already alluded to, but to really drive it home, is Clint is struggling with the guilt of what he did during his Ronin time. Mm-hmm. Also, the guilt of losing the fight to Black Widow on the cliffs of whatever that was, and her taking the Nesty plunge and getting the Soul Stone, and him just not being able to. Well, she did, and him not being really able to live with himself. Now he is somewhat carried forward by the fact that he has children. He has something to live for. He has a wife who, and I'll take this right from the Screen Junkies honest trailer, the most chill wife in the history of TV wives.
It's very true.
Yeah,
they kind of explain that at the end, maybe why.
Yeah, because she was a former agent, like she gets it.
She was Mockingbird.
In theory, I mean, it's hard for me to call her Mockingbird when they had a Mockingbird in Agents of Shield.
No, I agree with that, but I mean that's what they're implying because Mockingbird was Agent 19. Okay, and that's what it said. So therefore, they're saying he is married to.
I missed that. And was it Bobby? Was her name Bobby in Agents?
Yeah,
of
Bobby
Shield?
Bobby Morse.
Yeah, I mean, Agents of Shield, they definitely made it Bobby Morse Mockingbird. But I'm just saying here because I don't know how much of Agents of Shield. I mean, we're wondering about how much of the Netflix stuff is coming over. I don't even know if any of Agents of Shield counts as part of the MCU anymore, really.
Without going off on too much of a tangent, I'm going to tell you it's hard because there's a direct tie from Agents of Shield into Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Age of Ultron. Literally, they did an episode, and the end of the episode was the stinger into Age of Ultron.
Oh yeah, and they also had an episode that took place directly after Thor: The Dark World. Involves Sif and stuff. But it seems like everything once the show happened, everything always went one way.
Yeah,
never the other way. Nothing ever came out from them to the movie. So, and with doing things like this now, I don't. And plus, the season after Endgame came out, they kind of completely didn't even touch on that at all. About the season after Infinity War came out, like the whole people dusting had nothing to do with it. So
yeah,
does that count?
So to your point, so we can wrap that up and just move this on. Look, could there have been more than one Mockingbird? It's not like they've ever addressed this, and it's such a dinky little point to get caught up on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and say no. It's fine that you brought it up, but could she have been a Mockingbird? Could she have been the comic book Mockingbird because they were married at one point? Sure, why not? Could Bobby Morse in Agents of Shield also be a Mockingbird? Like there are more than one 007? Sure, who cares?
Yeah, that could work. Let's go.
I agree to disagree with Jason Teasley on that. I enjoyed the show, what I saw of it.
I enjoyed it too. Sorry, Jason.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Jason
buddy.
Jason's not a huge fan of Jason Teasley, the Protocol son. Not a huge fan of the Agents of Shield, but that's okay.
One way, I mean, like
hit or miss for me too.
Yeah, it's hit or miss with a lot of people. So you either really like it or you don't. So
they have Kate Bishop and this version of Clint a very kind of like uncle niece relationship.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of, this is what I was trying to get at. Like, he is definitely struggling with a lot of guilt for a variety of reasons, and he doesn't think he's a very good person, which coalesces with what went on in the comic. And he is redeemed through the course of 6 episodes and the relationship with this girl, which is probably the thing I like most about this iteration of Hawkeye and this show in particular of the Phase 4 Marvel stuff is just like Falcon and Winter Soldier, and unlike WandaVision, which I struggled with for this very reason, I'm big on redemption, forgiveness, and all of that, redeeming oneself, penance for your sins, that sort of thing. And I believe, and I think they did a really good job of addressing it without hitting you over the head with it in Hawkeye. And I think they did a good job of it also in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. They went in the opposite direction with WandaVision, which we don't need to get into. Robert and I screamed about that for 2 hours. Look, I'm traumatized, yes, but that doesn't give you the right to torture an entire town full of people. But hey,
what? Oh crap! I gotta do something. Hold on.
There goes my weekend.
Stop something.
Yeah, there goes my weekend plans.
You may need me to make some changes there, guys. Anyway, so let's speak on that for a minute. Al and then Ronnie. The relationship speak a little bit more on the relationship between Kate Bishop and Hawkeye and sort of the way that they handle guilt and redemption.
Well, I think you hit it on the head perfectly. It was they almost treated them like a family thing, or I mean, it was basically like a buddy cop type thing, kind of.
Yeah.
With the two of them, and like Ronnie said before, yes, there was a bit of an attraction, at least from her to him. She was attracted to him in the comic. Although, at least in the comic, even though he was not married, they treated it the same way they do here. He had no interest in her that way whatsoever. It was not even a hint about that. It was all, any of that was on her, not on him. And again, here, they had great chemistry together, I thought, but it wasn't that kind of chemistry.
Yeah, they have like
nothing
sexual chemistry, but not in the romantic way.
Exactly. There was none there at all whatsoever for them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it is a bit of a redemption thing. You're right. Because I mean, he does start out with trying to get her out of it. Basically, like, I already done all these stupid things and things are screwed up. And I'm not going to drag anyone else into this. But she's jumping into it because she's so happy about it. Like he's treated this like this. He has all the baggage about it. She doesn't. She just sees the bright shininess of it and kind of reminds him a bit of the bright, good, shiny things. Like you save people's lives. This is a good thing.
Right. And he's very much focused on, yes, but I've murdered a lot of people too. I have killed a lot of people. What I loved about the show, because Marvel, so I'm not going to go too much on a tangent here, and I really don't want to tweak Ronnie's nipples about this, but like Black Widow, she falls from orbit, hits everything on the way down, and brushes off her shoulders and is able to walk away and nary a scratch. I like and it just takes me out of the movie entirely because I'm like, come on, doesn't have superpowers. She's a spy and a dainty girl. Let's get a hold of ourselves, shall we? Meanwhile, in Hawkeye, there's scenes of them bandaging each other up, which I loved.
Yeah,
that's what I was getting to. Like, unlike the ridiculousness that was Black Widow, this very much showed, and they speak to it very openly, the toll this sort of life takes on you. It's something like that, like the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises tried to deal with too, but just as soon as they deal with it, then they undo it. James Bond, the same thing. Just as soon as they recognize that a life this way leads to untold horrors on your body, and then but what we need to have a movie here, so we'll just forget all that in the next scene.
Well, that's what I like the fact
that they carry that with them on their shoulders through the show. Go ahead, Al.
I was gonna say they were treating Black Widow kind of like a James Bond movie, so she is gonna do that James Bond type stuff. And Hawkeye was being played more like the I'm trying to think of one of the shows that they treat that more like
Felt like a Western. Felt like a Western. Felt like Logan. You know,
or like a Rockford Files or something where he's he's
John Wick.
Where he's like, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. Like I'm gonna win, but my ass is still half kicked, and I have a black eye, and we're putting these string beans on my head. Like this is how you do the. I like that. I love that part actually. When he's like showing how to do the bandage the wound up. It's like no, that's gonna scar. Do it this way.
That's why I like John Wick so much, because he gets the crap beat out of him, but he's still the hero. I thought one of the greatest scenes in the series was where Hawkeye and somebody in some stranger's apartment that he got set up in goes to the freezer and gets all these frozen margarita mixes and starts taping them to his elbows and knees, and then makes one and sits there and just relaxes. I'm like, God, what does it feel like to kick your feet and shoes off after a long day of superheroing? Kind of like that's wow. You never think of it like that. It's just like in the comic book, he's always got a bandage on his nose or something in a sling or something. It's just like a black eye. It's like he is very much a normal guy, and I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I think it's a missing art of screenwriting where they overpower everybody, whether you have superpowers or not, to the point where it takes a lot of the tension out of it. The fact that they showed Hawkeye is so vulnerable is what kept me invested in the show. That realistically, they're not going to kill him at any point here, but at least they showed that he could take a beating really badly. Like they showed a vulnerability that added to the tension of each scene. Like when they're both strapped to as funny as it was, when they were both strapped to like the little hobby horse things, when they meet Echo for the first time, there's a palpable sense of danger there. And, and you could deconstruct it and be like, oh, well, they're the stars of the show. Nothing's going to happen to them. But because they've shown that, and this is another credit to the show, something that Robert and I talk about all the time is how poorly women characters are written now. Everyone points to Rey, and I don't want to have that argument, but they point to Rey as somebody who's the bestest at everything without even trying and is perfect in every way. I think Critical Drink referred to her as Space Jesus. It's like non-gender Space Jesus or something like that. And what I love about her is that she's fallible. She doesn't always make great decisions. She gets beat up. She gets her ass kicked. She doesn't, yes, she has the one talent of being a very good archer and she can defend herself. Terrific. But she's not running in and saving Hawkeye every single time. As a matter of fact, in the first couple of episodes, she keeps getting caught or she gets him caught.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. She's still, she's a really good archer and she does know how to fight, but she's still brand new at this. Her fighting has mostly probably been competitions where there's rules and you don't do this and there are judges and timeouts. And it's not somebody going, we're going to keep doing this until one of us is dead.
Right.
Well, a good example, in my opinion, a good example of that is when she and the new Black Widow, I can't ever remember the name.
Yelena.
Yelena, thank you. I keep want to say Yolanda, and I know that's not right.
No, that's
yeah. Ow. Yelena.
Ow! So many jokes right now. Ow! Yeah. Ow!
I expect to look up and see your nose bleeding, but just shaking,
holding it in.
But when they're running and they're doing the throws and the kicks and the punches, I think at one point she hits her. Kate hits Yelena and she goes, "Ow!" And then they just keep running. Kind of one of those things. And at the end, she's like, "Hey, you're really good at this." And he's like, "Thanks." You think so? He goes, "Yeah, you get that throw. That was really good." And they were just sitting there talking about it. She's like, "Oh yeah, well, bye," and just jumps out the window. And I'm like, "What the crap?" Like she's my new favorite MCU character. I have to say that just because, not just because she's fun. She's a little bit quirky.
She is. That actually does make me think of something. Go on. I want to say something afterwards. I just popped my head, but finish up.
It's a show about people who just happen to be superheroes.
Yep.
Or super spies. So
yeah. One thing I just thought about that when you were talking about Yelena, and we were talking about Black Widow's basically being played like a James Bond, and I can kind of see that a bit, though, the reasoning for that. I'm not saying it's right or not, but I see the reasoning. In a movie, they're like, we need to keep this going and moving. We don't have time to waste with spending 20 minutes on them bandaging each other up. Let's keep going. She's going to jump off the satellite and land. It's fine.
Right.
The TV show is 6 episodes. They can do that kind of expanded characterization type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then it actually kind of fits because then they bring, because Yelena fits in that world with Natasha. So now they're bringing all of a sudden into this place of these people who are getting their asses kicked, and also they're bringing James Bond in, and like they're doing all this stuff, and they're bleeding, and they're getting cut, and it's like James Bond just kind of walks through, like it's be like soup perfect, bang bang, all the bad guys are dead. Martini magically appears in my hand. It's like, how are you like? And they're just looking at them like, yeah, we have no shot against you because you're not even looking and you're killing people with your pinky.
I did enjoy this scene in the kitchen, not only because Florence Pugh is one of the great female actors or actors in general, of her particular generation, of the younger set.
She's so good.
Yeah, she's excellent. But she had a very, like you guys use the word quirky. She had a very charismatic presentation in the show. More so than I thought in Black Widow, to be honest with you. And I think she had great chemistry with Hailee Steinfeld, Kate Bishop. But she has a line in there which cracked me up. She was like, and subtext is everything in these things. And when they get it wrong, it takes you out of the show. But when they get it right, it's so great, especially when it's subtle. And, so the whole reason she's in Kate Bishop's apartment is she needs information. But she doesn't, there's no reason to hurt this young lady. And, so she's like, let me try a different approach here, because I feel like so many of these shows and movies, it's always, everyone uses the hammer. She's like, I'm going to go with the carrot here because the hammer is utterly unnecessary. I'm very confident that I could do all kinds of things to this woman if I really needed to. But what if she'll just tell me what I need to know because I simply asked? And I was like, that's kind of brilliant, because nobody does that. And the more especially, she's in the apartment. This is always something I thought of. I think about it with like Joker's plot and The Dark Knight and all these things where, like, for you to have planned all of this, things needed to go right that you had no control over at all. What were you doing all this time? It's always like the guy underneath the ring in wrestling, where it's like, how long were you under there for? This is the last match of a 2-hour show.
Long enough to
he packed a lunch. He had a book.
Apparently, some were long enough to poop in a coffee can to make everybody else sick.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mr. Perfect.
So the point that I was getting to was, she's like, I'm waiting in the apartment. Like, I had no idea how long you were going to be, so I made food.
Yeah.
You want some mac and cheese? It's good.
Yeah. I just thought that was great. It kind of reminded me, but not in quite a hostile way, the opening of Inglourious Bastards with Christoph Waltz and the milk farmer.
Oh man, yeah,
the dairy farmer. Where he doesn't have a reason. He doesn't need to hurt this man. He's just trying to get him. He wants to know where the Jews are, and so and in there it's menacing. It's way menacing, it's eerily menacing.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh doesn't need to take it that far because it's a different kind of scene, but it's the same kind of setup where it's just like, I can sit here and exert my, I impress upon you, you're in a dangerous situation, but we don't need to take it that far. Just answer my questions. Yeah. And we can be nice and gentlemanly about it.
Yeah, no, it is. You're right about that comparison. And the difference, I think, also is in Inglourious Bastards, he has to kind of also ramp up a bit of the I'm a danger to make sure they know he's a danger. Because I mean, if his guards weren't there, those people probably could still kill him.
Right.
But Yelena knows, she is not taking me down. At best, she's getting a lucky hit. I can kill this girl in a minute and a half.
Right.
So she doesn't even have to worry about it because it's like, you're not a danger to me. You're not a threat. You're a puppy.
Right. I want to, as far as plots go, the thing that this all centers around, I like the fact that Marvel, because it's basically the world's most expensive television show, that things happen and why either there's a Bible that Kevin Feige sort of goes back to and says, we're putting this in Endgame, but we're going to reference it again later in Hawkeye because we've planned this out like my schedule 10 years in advance. Or things are happening in a movie like the Ronin thing, and then they're like, okay, well, we're going to do a Hawkeye show. What are we going to make it about? Like, how about we make it about that time when he was Ronin? and let's address the repercussions of that now that the world has zipped itself back together again.
Right. You don't just walk away from that.
Right. So I don't know which one it was, if it was, a great degree of forethought, which it could be considering how much, Kevin Feige has talked about they have like 20 years worth of movies planned.
Yeah.
Or it's like they had the bones of a Hawkeye show, but, and it was only kind of looking around at what he had done and going, well, what can we make some hay out of? I don't know which way they went.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, making it about Ronin, I thought was a bit of genius. So just a quick note on that, Al, what did you think of sort of the through thread of the consequences of his Ronin, the 5-year Ronin run being the impetus for the show?
No, I love that, because it's one of the things I've been loving about what they've been doing this year is all these things. They're, like you said, they're taking these repercussions and the events of what happens to these characters, and now they're using them to move them forward and do new things with them. Mm-hmm. And then we're doing new stuff. It's not just referencing the past stuff, but they're using that to now move everyone forward.
Actions of consequences.
Yeah, and it also makes sense, for instance, why they used Echo, because in the comics, Echo was the second person, one of the people to wear the Ronin outfit.
Okay.
So it makes perfect sense that Echo would be in this Hawkeye series, which is about Ronin, because whether they're going to do that with her or not in her, in her show and in the future, she was Ronin. Mm-hmm. So makes perfect sense that, especially if they want to do an Echo show, hey, let's introduce her in the show that involves Ronin.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. As a through thread, Ronnie, what did you think of them using the Ronin stuff from Endgame?
That was brilliant. I mean, just like y'all said, really honestly, what else are they going to make it about? I mean, like, what is his purpose in New York other than taking his kids there? What can you seriously make this about? I mean, like, they're in New York, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
You can't walk around the corner of New York without bumping into 7 superheroes anymore. Just like it's, or you've got the Stark Tower and all this other. I know he's dead now, but there's all kinds of stuff going on where you're in New York. Things are going to get taken care of. So there's nothing really, nothing that life threatening that's going to happen that some superhero team isn't going to come out of the woodworks. Spider-Man's there. All this other stuff is going on. He's there with his kids. So what else would they concoct to make him stay there? Yeah. And that's the Ronin suit. I mean, that makes sense. That's a brilliant piece of writing, in my opinion. And it just proves, you can't run from your past.
All right.
So you can't just leave things half done. You have to finish it. You have to figure out how this is going to affect you and your family and everybody else in the future. So deal with it. And so they had him deal with it. Literally, he went around as a ninja cutting people in half,
right?
Which I thought was awesome in the movie. But
well, it's interesting because why is he doing that? Well, at this point, the thing that humanizes him, that grounds him, that ties him to something that matters is his wife and kids. And in their absence, with nothing left to hold him back, he just becomes pure rage.
Crazy, yeah,
right. And now, like, he didn't know they were ever did. After 5 years, that's the whole point of Endgame. After 5 years, everyone had just assumed this was the new normal. And so with him out there cutting people up to bits, if he had gotten killed in the process, who cares? He didn't care. He was
trying to.
Yeah. He was definitely looking in provoking death. And now his family is back, and it's like, I did so much bad.
Yeah.
It's like, what did I do?
And everything, every superhero who has a family and loved ones, that isn't like an orphan spy or assassin, comes back to the same thing. We tend to think of just Spider-Man, but it's really anybody. Yeah. And that is, the bad guys will always find the ones you love, and that's your vulnerable point. And him kind of that tacit realization of, oh God, I killed so many people.
I killed so many people.
So easily find my family. Yeah. Yikes! Like, what do I do? Let's talk about the villains in this thing.
I do want to make one point. I'm so sorry, but
no, go ahead.
We've talked about the Ultimate Comics, but it reminds me of the Ultimate Hawkeye. At one point there were all this crap was happening, and like Nazi aliens were coming back and, to haunt people. And yes, that happened. And then like you find out that there was a spy amongst the Avengers, or the Ultimates as they called themselves then, and all this other stuff. They killed Hawkeye's, who had a family in this book. Mm-hmm. They killed his family, captured him. And at one point, they said, well, we've got him. He can't do anything. He's in there. He said, well, he had his hand strapped down. And he's like, well, you did forget one thing. And they're like, what? He said, you left my fingernails. He had pulled his own fingernails out and was flicking them into people's throats and killing people like this. And I was like, holy crap. And then he just grabs guns and just has guns all over himself and was going nuts, killing people. And I'm like, that tracks maybe. But
at this point, I'd like to remind everybody that comic books are for children.
Yeah.
And the fingernail thing, maybe that's why I thought about that when he was teaching her how to flick that little button thing.
That's what I
was thinking of.
Yeah, quarters and everything else. I still can't do that. But it reminds me of Bullseye. Bullseye had a toothpick and flicked it and went through, but it's just it's really interesting to think that they did draw from all this without somebody there to keep him grounded, without him looking at somebody who goes, I need to earn who I am for them. They're good. They're a part of me that's good. I need to earn that. I need to make sure that I'm doing good for them as well.
Yeah.
And when you take that out, you're like, F it. I don't, there's no more good in the world for me.
I don't care.
I don't care. I'm taking out the bad. Nobody deserves to live, not even me.
The major antagonist of this show is Echo. I would not call Yelena a major antagonist. She's somewhat of an obstacle. This whole thing is about the mob versus Hawkeye and Hawkeye versus the mob. The mob is represented by Echo. Yelena is just one of those crazy monkey wrench obstacle deals that the show has to deal with. Same thing with the Kingpin. The Kingpin, partially there, because the thing that the fans seem to treasure most, that has the most currency with them, is a feeling of interconnectedness, that things that they've seen matter. So Charlie Cox, spoilers, showing up in Spider-Man. Vincent D'Onofrio showing up as the Kingpin in this. This means stuff to people. This is why everyone was pissed the fuck off when Pietro shows up in WandaVision and it's just a dick joke. They wanted it to matter and it totally didn't. So just kind of going back through that again as an introduction, Al, as an antagonist, the antagonist of the show, what did you think of Echo and the gal that played her?
Definitely interesting portrayal. I mean, I'm not as used to the character. I mean, I've read some stuff with her in New Avengers, but I know she was a bigger character in Daredevil, I believe, and I really wasn't reading that series. So I don't know a lot about her. I just kind of do the bare bones, but I did remember the origin did track for me. And it was kind of interesting because I didn't really pay attention to it before, but I mean, the origin's basically like reverse Batman. More or less, just not as a child, but yeah, her parents are killed, parent is killed by somebody, and therefore she's going to wage war more or less on them. Except instead of going to be dressing like a bat, being a crime fighter, she's going to be a criminal and a mobster.
Okay.
And so it kind of fit with her obsession.
Because once I thought like that, she seems like a Huntress type character.
Yeah.
Just with the being deaf.
Yeah, but Huntress originally was Batman's daughter.
Right.
So.
Oh, was she really?
Oh yeah, that's how her character was really created. She was Helena Wayne. She was the daughter of Batman and Catwoman.
Oh, she wasn't always a daughter of the mob, huh?
No.
Wow. Okay.
No. The way they did in the Birds of Prey TV show was actually closer to the real origin.
Well, that's one good thing about that show. One. What about you, Ronnie? Echo as your main protagonist in this show. What did you think?
I loved it. I like that character a lot.
Antagonist. Sorry.
Yeah, I like that character a lot. She was a Daredevil character. She was a Daredevil antagonist for the longest time. A Daredevil partner. I don't know. I think they had a romantic relationship for a while too.
Well, he's worse than Hawkeye.
He really is. Yeah, he's a man whore.
I told Evan Bevins to write the book What was it, Ronnie, from earlier in the chat? It was something like it was faith something, and it was faith, critical race theory, and unnoticed nudity. Something about Logan's Run. I told Evan he needs to write that book. Al, I'm gonna need you to write, all the superheroes who banged and who they banged, and I'll publish that book for you.
All right, we get started.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
It's gonna be a big book.
Yeah,
and it's just Wolverine and Daredevil
and She-Hulk.
Oh, She-Hulk did a lot of banging too, huh?
She slept with Juggernaut.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gross.
That's some fanfic I want to see.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Slash fiction. Let me use the right terminology.
Or blocked it out, one of the two.
Blocked it out. That's probably if you're smart enough to block it out.
If anyone watching this works for Pornhub, we need some Juggernaut action.
No.
You're welcome, world. Go ahead, Ronnie. Who hasn't learned to not tell me that stuff like that?
I keep forgetting to put the mature audiences only thing on my screen. Anyway, I like the character. I thought they did I thought the actress was great in it, who is actually hearing impaired herself.
Okay.
And I thought it fits. It fits,
Mm-hmm.
It brought depth to the character as well because of Hawkeye, Clint Barton's hearing loss in the show, and he's actually deaf in the comic books as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then or has hearing, I don't want to say completely deaf, but has hearing loss. And they do a lot of ASL and American Sign Language. And one of the coolest books in the series is where they did the whole thing through Lucky's eyes, Pizza Dog's eyes. Sorry, but I digress. That's a great issue in that run.
That's in the second trade.
Yeah. Great issue. But I thought she fit. I thought it was great, and it helped introduce Wilson Fisk back into the MCU, which Vincent D'Onofrio is a brilliant Kingpin.
Oh yeah.
So I'm excited to see what comes up with next. I'm excited to see if they pick up Daredevil, and I want to see John Bernthal as Punisher again. So it just opens up a whole world of I hope, but also her as the main antagonist. She's got a lot of rage herself. She's dealing with the exact same thing that Hawkeye was dealing with when the snap happened.
Mm-hmm.
So he understands where she's coming from, but she doesn't want to hear it. She's just like, no, this is how things are going. She's very angry. This is how things are going to be. I'm going to kill everybody, and you're just happen to be in the way. I'm going to kill you as well.
I'm almost wondering if she's going to be Ronin in the Echo show.
She needs to be Ronin. She needs to be Ronin because that was one of the coolest between her and Hawkeye. Hawkeye had to be Ronin to hide for a while because he had died and was brought back and didn't, and he was like dealing with that, with the emotions of that and everything. So he was Ronin for a while. Nobody knew that. But she made a just as cool Ronin. So I really want to see her with that suit on.
The last thing I want to bring up before I give it to you guys for any last licks, burning desires, etc., is we do need to talk about Kingpin to some degree. Mm-hmm. So it goes without saying. I actually just re-edited the 4-part Daredevil review, season 1 review that we did back when season 1 came out. It was actually hosted by Gavin.
2015, right?
Yeah. So it's going to be quite a lengthy podcast because that was actually 4 separate shows.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, you like this 1 hour talking about 6. Yeah, back in the day, we got deep into this stuff. This was like 1 episode, 1 podcast. Anyway, and one of the things that I think everybody said in every episode of that podcast was how great Vincent D'Onofrio was as Kingpin.
Oh my gosh.
There is such reverence for his performance and that character, which brings me to this. There was a lot of complaining about not so much the portrayal. The portrayal was fine enough, though some people quibbled about that too. But in a very, very general way, people thought that the writing of Kingpin in the Hawkeye series did not do him any justice. Like they went out of their way to tear him down, make him fallible, take away his agency, make him not menacing, and then quite literally just run him off screen with a car because I don't know who the people making that argument. I don't know who they think we're supposed to be transferring our love of our love of the villain to. There's no one left in the show because Yelena's not really a villain. Echo made a face turn, and there's no one left. So I don't know who, so if you're diminishing the Kingpin, which is basically the argument here, people feel like the Kingpin was diminished. I don't know who, what's the comparison like to the Matrix Resurrections, where you diminish Neo so that you'll transfer all your love over to Trinity, or you diminish Scarlett Johansson so that you'll transfer all your love over to Florence Pugh. There's no one left to transfer your love to by the end of Hawkeye. I don't get the argument, but go ahead, Al. I'll come back to you, Ronnie. Go. I don't the Kingpin in that argument in particular.
I thought it was fine. He was menacing. He got hit by this car, and it wasn't just a nudge. I just rewatched that fight scene a few minutes before we started this. That car hit him at like 40 miles an hour. Oh,
Al, there's a cottage industry of people complaining that Kingpin should have killed Kate Bishop.
And he got up. She's lucky he didn't. She was. I just rewatched that. He gets up after being hit by that car, and he's just like a little bruised. Hell, the first thing she shoots an arrow at his chest, and he just stands there and goes, eh. And she just has that look in her face of like, crap. What the hell just happened? Yeah. That's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to fall down and go, ow. And you didn't. And everything she does, the whole fight is basically a little kid a 5-year-old attacking a grown-up.
Yeah.
And it's her jumping on him going, would you get off? It's actually a little kid fighting a grown-up in the pool so they can just throw them into the water because it's fun.
Right.
And that's all he's doing. He's just throwing her. And it's only because she was able to get pretty much every single arrow to explode after he got hit by a car. That was menacing because he would have ready. If she didn't do that, he would have just been like, give me your neck. Snap.
Right. But then he allegedly gets shot by Echo. And I think people are frustrated with that as well.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that part. Yeah, but he's not dead.
No, of course he's not, but
he's going to come back, and he always does. And now he's more pissed at these people. They're on his radar now.
People don't like it. They wanted Kingpin to kick ass and take names and destroy everybody for some odd reason.
Have they never read a Daredevil comic book? That's literally what Daredevil does to him to defeat him. Strips him down to nothing, takes away his wealth, takes away his empire, and says, now you get to go to jail with everybody else that are normal people. And then Wilson Fisk says, F you, I'll be back soon. And he comes back richer, meaner, and nastier.
Well, that was certainly the end of Daredevil season 3.
He literally went to jail.
Right.
And what did he do in jail? He formed a new empire just by going, no, you work for me now. And they're like, oh, big man, blah, blah, blah. And then he snaps somebody's neck with his bare hands. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're cool now. Kind of one of those things.
So I'm gonna take a wild guess. You don't agree with the detractors. You think the portrayal and the writing of Kingpin and how he was handled in the 2 episodes he was in was just fine.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things I've been enjoying about the MCU. It's not like I don't love the comics, but one thing about the comics is because it is drawings, they can just keep these things going forever. So they can keep, if they want to, they can just have the Kingpin be there forever. They can kill any character and next month go, no, we're bringing them back. Why? Right. I don't know. We're drawing it. A wizard did it. Good enough. Let's do it. Let's move on. Let's blame Gandalf. Moving on. Here, because they have to deal with actors and people who are going to be here or not and want more different types of, don't want to always just do the same thing every single month for 40 years.
I don't know why
they have to do new things with them, and they have to go forward with okay, well, if this guy's doing this stuff, is he going to get arrested eventually? Okay, and now what do we do after that?
Right.
So we're not going to get the Kingpin being the Kingpin for 50 years. That's just boring. If he's going to be the antagonist for 50 years at every episode and always just win every single time. In the comics, he never won every single time. He kept going to prison. He quit for like a dozen years in Daredevil to go live with his wife.
So I didn't watch the show as it was airing. I binged it. I think last week. And one of the things I remember seeing on Twitter was people complaining about the Hawaiian shirt, white suit outfit that he has on, and people then responding on Twitter with the pic from the comic book. Where like the balls on Marvel for a comic accurate Kingpin in the goofy outfit, which I thought was funny, but it does sort of point to the divide between people who clearly don't read the comics.
They don't
and look at some of this stuff and go, "This is goofy as fuck, yo." And and then there's the comic people going, "Listen, buddy, it's right there. It's on the page. You don't like what's on the page? Don't watch the goddamn show. How about that?"
That's his version of thinking he's one of the people. Look,
Yeah.
I'm wearing
Yeah.
a Hawaiian shirt. It's
Mhm.
Christmas time. We're having fun.
And he's like, "Yeah, look at
you're annoying me. I'm going to snap your neck
Woo."
now.
Yeah. But okay. Just let's to point out the fact that people don't read the books who are watching the MCU, watching the shows, watching the movies.
Mhm.
The Danny Rand, Iron
Yeah.
Fist.
Oh my god.
Why isn't he Asian?
Yep.
Because he's not. He's not. He hasn't been for 30, 40 years.
My favorite part of that entire like triggered Twitter argument was the people who acknowledged that Danny Rand was a blonde white guy, but was like, you still could have made him Asian. This insistence that we must whitewash everything, like, but it's comic accurate. Well, comic accuracy should not be the most highly valued thing in creating a television or show or a movie. We should, inclusivity should be. And you could just see like the people in disagreement with that argument just vomiting all over themselves.
That was me.
What they really should have done for Iron Fist is made, what was it, 13 episodes?
Sure.
Is made it like what? Do it in 3 acts, 3 episodes, 3 episodes, and 4. And then do 3 episodes in between each one. Do like they did for the Immortal Iron Fist series. Each, do a one shot showing one of the previous Iron Fists, many of whom were. And you have a little bit of both. You have everything. You have Danny Rand as he was in the comics, but you're also like, yeah, look at her from this Chinese woman who's Iron Fist,
Right,
or whatever. I mean,
I think, and that's a wonderful idea, and I think that I would absolutely love that, but I think it would have made it worse. Be like, because they're showing people of Asian descent, and then all of a sudden you show blonde white guy, and they're like, see, cultural appropriation. But no, he was literally orphaned in the Himalayas, and they took him and raised him and taught him their secrets.
Yeah,
To be
these all
fair,
sound like details that don't matter.
I mean, also real quick, just and then because it's not the show we're talking about, but I mean,
Right.
To be fair, to me, always the difference was it's from Kunlun, which means fictional, not even country, fictional alternate dimension.
Right.
So therefore, it's just influenced. Kunlun is actually the one that's doing cultural appropriation. It's taking, if it's taking stuff from China, the whole country is, not just him.
Yeah.
Never mind, you have to walk through a freaking portal to get home.
So I mean, it's not. I mean, it's one thing if they were saying he was the Iron Fist and he comes from Hong Kong or Beijing,
Right.
which is an actual real place in a country where you could say, well, yes, they're taking it from there.
Right.
Kunlun is fake. It's
Here's
not even a fake country. It's a fake alternate dimension.
Here's the thing that Robert and I always talk about: the people
So to
screaming
me,
the loudest on social media about inclusion and giving more opportunities to non-white men are not the people who watch these shows, read these books, or care about this universe.
Right.
They tangentially know about it. They know that talking about it will get them attention, and if they complain loudly and put their agenda forth, people will pay attention to, and they will generate an inflated argument that we are currently having on the show, where we all enjoy Hawkeye. So, but it's out there.
Yeah. Oh, and one last thing. The reason why I thought about that was because I thought Kunlun was just kind of filled with people from anyone from Earth was from different countries, like different nationalities. Like that's why Davros, because I just looked up to double check. He's the actor's Indian.
Yeah.
He's not from China or anywhere like that. He's from India.
Right.
And that's what I kind of took from that is like they were kind of doing like Kunlun was like anyone from Earth that's in Kunlun. It's not just from one country. It's like all kinds of people all over, whatever.
All right. So to close up
anyway,
this hour of discussing the Hawkeye show, I'll go to you first, Ronnie. Going all the way back to the beginning of this podcast, you said to me months ago, really, when Hawkeye comes out, I want to talk about it with you, and I don't want to talk about it with anybody else except Al Sedano, because I like this character so much, and I want to be able to talk about it without being told, this is bad, it's dumb, set it all on fire. So here's your chance, man. Last licks. Anything else left to talk about? Anything, any part of your, I totally didn't do any of my ad reads tonight. Any part of your passions that you want to share with the folks regarding
Actually, real quick, what I want to do is talk about, the music in the you want me to do it? You want me to do it? I'll do it.
Keep going.
The music in the show was actually I don't remember any of it, but can I find that soundtrack somewhere?
A lot of Christmas music for your holiday cheer. And all of that Christmas music can be found on Amazon Music Unlimited. As a matter of fact, we are doing a free 30-day trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. Again, it's getamazonmusic.com/W2M network for your free 30-day trial. Click the link in the description, fill out the information, enjoy over 70 million songs that are free for you to listen to for an entire month. If you tire of it, you can cancel, no fuss, no muss, but who doesn't love free? We all do. So I bet you will keep it. You pay the monthly fee. It's comparable to Spotify and Apple Music and whatnot. And it's a great service. You can make playlists. There's nothing you can't find except for the Mother's Day Out album, which I bought and then realized I don't have a CD player. But but everything else besides Mother's Day Out is on Amazon Music Unlimited for you to enjoy. So let's get amazonmusic.com/W2M network. Thanks, Ronnie.
No problem. Do you have another one?
I'm not going to do them back to back. Let's talk a little bit more and then
okay, because I was going to say I could hold up a card, but I'd probably misspell it. But anyway,
you asked to be here. What do you want? Why are you here, Ronnie?
Why am I here? I was trying to help you.
No. You did great. But back to you. Now.
I just absolutely loved the Matt Fraction run on this because it was so different from everything else I've ever read in comic books and superheroes and stuff like that, as far as mainstream goes. And when I found out that they were going to adapt some of that to this show, I was like, I'm done. I'm talking about this with you. I don't want, it's not that if it sucked, yeah, we'd say it would suck, but it doesn't suck. It's one of the best. It's probably my favorite Marvel series that has been put out.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time deciding which one was better, this or Falcon or Winter Soldier. And
it's
hard because I love the small story.
Yeah,
I love the small story. I love the sort of the street level, ground level, intimate story that that they're dealing with. I love the themes in it, but it's so hard because like Falcon and Winter Soldier thematically resonated with me more. It's so hard. Like this is like having children. It's like, well, which one of my children do I love more? I can't decide. They're both infinitely better than WandaVision and Loki, though.
I get that. I get what you're saying, but I have to go with Hawkeye. I loved Falcon and Winter Soldier. I really did. Mainly, I'm a big U.S. Agent fan as well. I don't know why. I just always liked him. But so introducing John Walker in this was fantastic for me, even though they made him out to be even more of a douchebag than he is in the comic books.
I believe it was the honest trailer, I think it was, that said that he was the spawn of the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, nice. Now, and I adore Loki and WandaVision as well. I do. I love them. I love them both. But hands down, Hawkeye has beat them. Has beat them out. What is that? What are you doing?
He's hanging himself.
I do. I'm sorry. I like them. You can.
Sorry, Mark. You're outnumbered here. I agree.
I am a majority of one, as my father would say. I didn't get to talk about Loki, but boy, that show.
Well, it's okay to be wrong, but
I allow other people to be wrong. That's how I get through the day. Other people can be wrong.
You. Al, we're taking this over. But it just and the more I watched of this show, the more I was so glad that I asked you to talk about this. It's something different. It's something special. Because it's like you said, it's more street level, it's more personal, and it just shows being normal. Even though you do have your super spy or whatever, but I mean, like
there's silly over the top action that would have killed any normal human being. And that's
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
so crazy.
You got that with every show. You know,
Yeah,
you
no,
had that.
and-
Yeah, with
I don't
24
harp on
and
stuff like that.
Yeah,
but just
no.
you know, this is not The Wire for certain. This is
Absolutely.
absolutely a fantasy show
Yeah.
where a guy can land in a Christmas tree, fall down, and nary a scratch on him.
Right.
But-
But then he goes home to a stranger's apartment and duct tapes the frozen margarita mixes to his knees.
Sure.
You know, it's like it took a toll on him. You know,
Absolutely.
So it was just this was like for me, this was something special. This one I'm going to rewatch every Christmas season, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's just I loved it, and I can't express to people how much my mom's a giant Jeremy Renner fan, and she loved him as Hawkeye. And I'm like, have you watched the series yet? She says, no, I just haven't sat down. I was like, what is wrong with you in your life? Sit down and watch this. You're retired. You have nothing else to do. Just do it. And I know once she watches it, she's going to be asking me a ton of questions, but she's going to love it. I really do believe that, you know.
I have to say, like, it was an easy watch. Like, I
really
got through it in one day, and I never got bored with this for certain.
Yeah.
Every episode like left me like, ooh, I want to see what happens next.
I admit, okay, there are a few things that I've watched recently for podcasts that I have at some points fast forward through. I fast forwarded through a little bit of The Power of the Dog, just because there was no dialogue and they were just sitting there staring at the wall and, you know, waxing poetic about something. I had to fast forward through that. There's things that you do that with, and I never once did that with this show. I watched it from opening credit to ending credit, hoping to see something different. Hi, buddy.
All right, Al, you two also, you asked to be here. You wanted to be a part of this. So any burning desires, passions you want to discuss before we close up for the night?
I just want to go with what he said. But I mean, this was they really did a good job in this series, because for me, my preference, as you can kind of guess from the podcast I do, I like the cosmic. I like that crazy outer space, time travel, weird stuff. WandaVision and Loki were more in my wheelhouse for what I was looking forward to than Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Okay.
And obviously that would kind of go with then, well, Hawkeye's even less of what my wheelhouse, and yet it is possibly my favorite, or at least my top two of the series that they come out so far. It was just so well done, and so it was a lot of fun. And also just like I said, all those little details of like, yes, I'm doing this, but it's also going to hurt. And just everything was just like a perfect mix. They did a really excellent job on this one. It's like they pulled all the stops. Like, okay, it's the end of the year. We got to end really well, so people keep up their Disney Plus subscriptions in January. You know, everyone had gone for Christmas last year. We want to make them buy it again this year.
And they absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I think so.
When you guys have convinced me, you know, when I did my top 10 list for movies that suck and some that don't, I said my top two movies. My top one movie was, I think, the best made, but my second one was the one I most enjoyed. And I think now that I kind of listened to you both talk about it and process this past hour, I think Hawkeye is the best written show they've done this year.
Absolutely.
It's the only one that started strong, the middle was strong, it never drags, and then sticks the landing. WandaVision, almost as hard as Black Widow, falls flat on its face and breaks its neck. Loki, you know, doesn't quite fall on its face, but definitely clumsy waders across the finish line and was interminable in getting there. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I thought was great most of the way and kind of stumbled at the end, though. You know, as much as I liked what Falcon has to say at the end, you know, with the "you must do better" speech, it was a little Wonder Woman 1984-y. You know, like, how do we end the show? How about a speech where he shames everyone? All right. Is he gonna punch anything? No. He's just gonna yell at people.
Verbally, yes.
He's going to do a monologue. Oh, it's a little anticlimactic. But I thoroughly enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier. We spent 3 hours, not, you know, including the ownership of Captain America's shield, talking about it. But I think in sort of processing this whole thing, Hawkeye was the best written show this year. So that's where I stand. Yeah, and you know what would have made the garbage writing of WandaVision and Loki and, you know, maybe Falcon's speech so much better, Ronnie Adams.
I'm not even helping. Don't even kick this to me.
Do you know
said it was garbage? not garbage.
Do you know what would have made WandaVision's ending better instead of yet another laser in the sky and two people with the exact same power throwing fireballs at each other? Do you know what would have made that better?
I play D&D. We do that all the time. Wizards fight each other. Okay.
Okay, well, when you're the wizard, it's one thing. When you're having to watch the wizards do it, it's a little boring, especially when I've seen it 5 zillion times.
Just tell us what would make the writing better.
I will, and it's Grammarly. Don't you understand?
Don't you get it?
Don't you understand? Grammarly,
It's always.
Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. And again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. And if you think WandaVision was a well-written show, especially at the end, you are a communist. And no, sorry. So that's not what that ad read says.
There was one negative about Hawkeye.
Oh, what's that?
No
I want to hear
alligator
yours
Loki.
because
No alligator Loki.
I did. I was. Taking your soundboard away.
No.
Yeah, burning it. I did find one negative about Hawkeye. One negative, and that was the end of credits stinger where they just showed the whole musical number, and that annoyed me for some reason. I was like, this whole great show, and you can't give me something other than that.
Oh my god.
I don't know. I just like, man.
They're getting so lazy though with their end. I mean, like Eternals had two that at least lended themselves to future stories. And,
I love one of them.
Were the traditional, what's going to happen next on the next episode of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as opposed to like Spider-Man, which was like, fuck it, and just play a Doctor Strange trailer, or another Spider-Man movie where they did a PSA with Captain America making fun of the audience.
That was funny.
I think Black Widow had one or two that actually lended themselves to future stories. I know there was the bit with Elaine from Seinfeld and Florence Pugh.
Yeah, which led into this.
Right.
Oh.
She'll always be Elaine from Seinfeld to me, or Veep. Good old Veep. Remember that show, Ronnie?
I do. I don't remember watching it ever.
I got halfway through it and before I had to stop, and I have I eventually have to go back and finish it. Hurts my heart that I never finished Veep. All right, folks. I think that does it. That's our review of Hawkeye. Currently known as just the miniseries, but I guess if people like it enough or they get some more ideas, they'll do a season 2, because wasn't Loki only supposed to be one series? These were all supposed to be just one season.
Loki, I believe, is still one series. They just had to cut it.
Oh, okay. So it was supposed to be, I guess, 12 episodes.
Yeah, but they had to cut it in half.
Like,
but otherwise,
like What If, I think. It was the same deal where it's like they planned out X amount of episodes, but only did the first half.
Yeah. I would love to see, even if they can't get Jeremy back, since we're talking about that real quick, I would, do a Hawkeye and Black Widow, Yelena and Kate.
Okay.
That would be fun. That would be really fun.
A lot of other podcasts, I don't like to do this speculatory thing only because I've now had to go back and listen to some 4 or 5 year old podcasts, and it's like when you go back and listen to them years later and there's so much speculative talk, like, well, you already know, like, you already know what the answers to these questions are. But
I'm not speculating. I'm just saying I would like that.
That's what I was going to ask you just real quick. The big argument amongst the nerds out there is, where will these people end up next? There's people pointing at Thunderbolts. There's people pointing at Young Avengers, New Avengers, Dark Avengers, Plaid Avengers. So Great Lakes Avengers. I would love a Great Lakes Avengers.
Oh, man.
Can we please get a Great Lakes Avengers? I would rather not see any more Avengers movies in just Great Lakes, because I like terrible things, Ronnie.
You do.
So if Kevin Feige sort of hands you the Bible, Al, what do you do with Kate Bishop and the new Black Widow there? Where do they end up?
Oh, I think that what I said is I think Hawkeye should be training Kate, and Black Widow's like, no, she's fine. She's going on a mission with me. And that's what the story should be, that she kind of steals her away and goes, no, you're good. Let's go on the mission. And she's not really ready for the mission.
So you think so? Like not a full on be a part of yet another team, just another buddy cop thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not ready for the. Yeah, don't put them yet in the big supervillain stuff. Put them more in something along the lines of between the Black Widow movie and the Hawkeye show, somewhere that kind of threat level.
The allusion I got from Elaine from Seinfeld and the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier was that U.S. Agent was headed towards like a Thunderbolts kind of team. So what do you think, Ronnie? Where what are we getting? Where do these characters land now that we have them?
I don't know, but I would like to tell you what I'd like to see.
What would you like to see?
I like Al's idea, I really do, but I want to see if they can't get Renner. Okay, two different things. If they can't get Renner back, if he's off doing movies or something like that, I would like to see her kind of unravel the young Avengers in her show in Hawkeye to discover Guardian and discover, is that his name? Yeah,
Who?
Patriot. I'm sorry. To discover
Patriot, yeah.
discover Patriot and discover. I mean, you've already got Wiccan and
Speed.
Do we?
Speed.
I thought they were figments of her imagination.
Well, they originally were anyway.
They originally were anyway, but now they're very much real.
Are they?
At the end of the show, they are.
Not my takeaway from that show.
Yeah, they're real.
Okay, you insist.
So you've got those two. I'd like to see Patriot. I'd like to see her discover what's her name? Ant-Man's kid.
Oh, Stature.
Cassie Stature. You know, and then maybe spin off to a Young Avengers show. That would be fun. If they get Renner back, I think that it should be a training. They get into their own adventures on their own, but he's still very much training her to be the new Hawkeye.
A couple years ago, I pitched a West Coast Avengers deal. I very much wanted like a Hercules and a Wonder Man, but like the whole reason why it's the West Coast Avengers is because they're also like part-time, big-time Hollywood actors, and I wanted somebody like John Cena or The Rock to play Hercules. That was my pitch. And then, like I said, we need a Wonder Man in there. We needed that whole setup for the West Coast Avengers. Get Vision and Scarlet Witch on the team.
What is Wonder Man's name? Simon
Williams.
Yeah. Thank you. Simon Williams is in the MCU.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's balls. What is his name? One of my favorite actors. Nathan Fillion. Yeah.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Yeah, and
you look thrilled.
Nathan Fillion is a national treasure, even though he's from Canada.
I'm not the fact that I can't remember what character it is you're referring to, but yes, I know the actor.
Wonder Man.
What that face was.
He's Wonder Man, and he wasn't in the movie. He was in a poster in the movie.
Oh, okay.
For the Archon movie, yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
all right. As I was saying, that is our review of Hawkeye on Disney Plus. Al Sedano, I hear you do a podcast about Marvel characters.
What? I do?
You do?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. Resurrections, an Adam Warlock and Thanos podcast. It's all about the Marvel characters, Adam Warlock and Thanos. I mean, yeah, that's it. What else? What other questions do you have? It tells you right there.
Good stuff.
What are you working on these days? What story arc?
Right now, actually, we have an episode should be coming out Sunday-ish, depending how if I get it done in time. We're starting to be covering the late 70s, early 80s period when both Adam and Thanos were dead. And we're going to be talking about all the stuff that kind of like references them and leads up to the point where leads up to the whole thing where they come back with Infinity Gauntlet. So we have some stuff. We're covering a whole bunch of comics in 16 episodes. So we're going to be covering like 30 or 40 comics in like 16 episodes.
Oh, cool. Very good.
So we're skimming through a bunch.
And you're on all the podcatchers and whatnot?
Yep. Just type in Adam Warlock or Thanos, whatever podcatcher you use, and you'll find us, or go on Twitter at Adam Thanos Pod. All
right. Ronnie Adams of the Screaming Boy podcast. I hear you're taking people through the snow.
I'm not on that. I don't have that show anymore. I am formerly of the Screaming Boy podcast. My name is Ronnie Adams. I'm now of the Misfits and Miscreants stream. If you go to twitch.tv/misfits and miscreants, you will find me there with a bi-weekly Dungeons and Dragons actual play stream. We are running through Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, where We are beyond the spine of the world. The adventures are beyond the spine of the world, trekking through the snow with 5 hours of sunlight a day from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Finding adventure, fighting monsters, and discovering who they are. It's a lot of fun. I've got a great group of players that are slowly discovering their characters and just having a lot of fun with it. So if you like to watch Dungeons or listen to a good story and hang out with, if you like Dungeons and Dragons, come give us a follow, watch us. There's going to be some other tabletop role-playing content on there as well. Currently, tomorrow night, if everything goes well and the weather holds off, I will be streaming some EDH, which is another name of Commander, a form of Magic the Gathering. We'll be streaming a little bit of that, and then Saturday will be session 9 of our game, and then coming up in the near future, I'll be posting other tabletop role playing content to our to the channel. Other not just Dungeons and Dragons, but we also play things like Monster of the Week, Kids on Bikes, Call of Cthulhu. Just picked up the new Alien tabletop role-playing game, and Fallout. So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff that we're going to do, some one-shots and possibly some mini arcs in different games. So just stick with us, hit that follow button, and in the meantime, when there's not those things on there, you can just watch my big dumb head play video games as well.
Well, Ronnie Adams, we're not done with you yet, because this Monday, it's the triple feature that keeps changing. We will be reviewing this at the moment, card subject to change. We will be reviewing Power of the Dog, The French Dispatch, and Cop Shop. That's this Monday coming up. And then Thursday, 10 o'clock. We will be discussing season 1 of the Amazon Prime series, Wheel of Time. And I think that's it. I don't think you're on anything again for a little bit after that, Ronnie. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. We're taking tea on that one.
Okay. As for what I did this week, I did podcasts. Myself and the boys on the Metal Hammer of Doom reviewed Lordy Abracadaver. Ronnie Adams and Robert Winfrey and I discussed Scream 5 or Scream 2022. Yesterday,
I want real quick. Before I got in there, I started watching it, and I heard Robert say, and if it is Scream 5, you bunch of idiots, or whatever he said. It is not. It's Scream. Scream, not Scream 5. So I just want to say that it's a requel.
Okay.
Did you just mock me?
No. Al Sedano, Evan Bevins, Jess Starcher, and I did a comic strip for the George Perez illustrated Logan's Run comics from Marvel. Speaking of which, and then we compared it to the movie that came out in the year of our Lord, 1976, when I was born. So check out our comic strip on Logan's Run for the Superblog team up. Jesse dropped a Brave and the Bold for the Superblog team up. And tomorrow, Jesse Starcher, Jason Teasley, and I will be reviewing Dummy with Anna Kendrick, that was formerly on Quibi and now on the Roku channel. My wife really enjoyed it, and she was like, "Oh, this is a much better pick than Secretary was." So I'm glad that we're watching more stuff that my wife likes. Says a lot about my wife, doesn't it? Whitney Seibold of Critically Acclaimed will be on the podcast to talk Mandy. He's talked nonstop about this every time the Nicolas Cage movie Pig has come up. So I was like, God damn it, you need to come on my show and talk Mandy. Get this monkey off your back. And then Saturday, it's all right for fights. We will be re-airing Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll Season 1. And the evening time, Daniel Lasby and I will be doing an alternative commentary for the main card of UFC 270, Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane, for the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the World. All right, that's it. That is our show. For Al Sedano, for Ronnie Adams of the Screaming Boy Podcast, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.